Her name was Corporal Myra Sekera, and for the last 14 months, the war had reduced her life to a single, exhausting loop. Wake up before dawn. Check the perimeter sensors. Eat a cold ration bar. Then, the sandbags. Thousands of sandbags. They lined every bunker, every command post, every sniper nest along the forward operating base FOB, Whiskey Ridge. A grim outpost carved into a dusty hillside that overlooked a valley no one wanted to talk about. Myra was not a hero. She was not a sniper, a medic, or a drone operator. She was a logistics specialist, which in the Army's quiet language meant she was the person who made sure the heavy, ugly, necessary things were where they needed to be. And right now, what needed to be moved were the sandbags along the northern berm. The winter rains had turned the cheap burlap into rotting mush, and a single mortar round could turn a weak wall into a cloud of shrapnel. She worked alone that afternoon. Her squad was either on patrol or sleeping off a night shift. The sun was a pale, angry coin in a hazy sky, and the wind carried the smell of diesel smoke and dry earth. Myra grabbed a fresh stack of sandbags, each one a 50-pound brick of misery, and slung two over each shoulder. Her back ached. Her knuckles were scraped raw. She had not had a real shower in 11 days. As she worked, she tied her dusty brown hair back and adjusted her plate carrier. It was an old vest, the camouflage pattern faded to a universal shade of beige. On the left breast pocket, mostly hidden by a strap, was a small patch. It was not her unit's official insignia. That one, a screaming eagle, was sewn on her right shoulder. No, this patch was smaller, darker. A black dagger crossed with a lightning bolt, set against a midnight blue circle. 3 words arched over the top: Nightshade Unit. She had earned that patch 3 years ago, before the war. Back when she was Private Sekera, a fresh-faced recruit who had tested off the charts in pattern recognition and language acquisition. The Army, in its bewildering wisdom, had plucked her from basic training and dropped her into a windowless building in Virginia. For 18 months, they taught her how to listen. Not just to radios or intercepted calls, but to the silence between words. She learned to read supply manifests and spot the one unusual shipment. She learned to listen to rebel chatter and pick out the hidden meeting point. She was not a field agent. She was a ghost in the machine, an analyst who could see the shape of an ambush 3 days before it happened. The Nightshade Unit was a black program, so classified that its own existence was a rumor. They did not take photos. They did not receive medals. They simply disappeared from the official roster and reappeared in hotspots wearing civilian clothes or foreign uniforms. Myra had done one deployment with them, tracking a weapons smuggling network through 3 countries. It had been terrifying and exhilarating. Then a mortar fragment had clipped her shoulder, and the medical board had quietly reassigned her to a logistics battalion. Undisclosed medical sensitivity to prolonged field stress, the paperwork said. Translation: she had frozen for 3 seconds during a firefight, and the Nightshade Unit did not tolerate hesitation. So now she swapped sandbags. She did not complain. She did not tell her new squad about the black dagger patch. Most of them would not believe her anyway. To them, she was just the quiet corporal who could lift 2 sandbags at once and who sometimes stared at the horizon a little too long. By the 3rd hour, she had replaced 47 sandbags. Her gloves had torn, so she worked barehanded, the rough burlap biting into her palms. She was stacking the fresh bags in a staggered pattern, a technique she remembered from a Nightshade survival course when she heard footsteps. Not the heavy, tired shuffle of a patrol returning. These were deliberate, measured, the sound of someone who owned the ground they walked on. She did not look up. In the Army, you learn quickly that eye contact with senior officers is a risk. You become furniture. You become part of the wall. She kept her head down, her hands moving, as a group of soldiers rounded the corner of a nearby supply container. There were 4 of them. 3 were aides, their uniforms crisp, their faces young and anxious. The 4th man was older, maybe 55, with a weathered face and eyes the color of old slate. He wore no helmet, just a patrol cap with a single star on it. Brigadier General Vance Corrigan. He was the commander of all coalition forces in the northern sector. Myra had seen his photo on the bulletin board outside the mess hall. The caption read, "The old man is watching." He was supposed to be at headquarters, 30 miles south, in an air-conditioned bunker full of live satellite feeds. But here he was, walking the berm at FOB Whiskey Ridge, probably checking on the forward units before a big push. Myra kept stacking. She did not salute. You do not salute in the field. It gives away rank to snipers. The general stopped walking. Myra felt his presence like a change in air pressure. His aide stopped too, looking confused. The general was staring at her, not at her face, at her chest, at the faded, half-hidden patch on her vest. "Corporal," he said. His voice was low, gravelly, the kind of voice that had given orders for 30 years and expected them to be followed instantly. Myra straightened up slowly. She did not snap to attention. That would have been theatrical. She simply stopped moving and let her hands fall to her sides. "Sir." The general stepped closer. His aides exchanged nervous glances. One of them, a captain with a neat mustache, started to say, "Sir, we have a briefing in." The general held up one finger. The captain went silent. The general's eyes did not leave the patch. He reached out, not touching her, but pointing. "Where did you get that?" Myra felt a cold drop in her stomach. Most officers would not recognize the Nightshade insignia. It was not in any regulation manual. But General Corrigan was not most officers. Rumor said he had helped create the unit 15 years ago, back when it was just a wild experiment in predictive intelligence. "It was issued to me, sir," she said. Her voice did not shake. She was proud of that. "Issued," he repeated, tasting the word. "That means you passed the selection. You survived the training. You deployed." "Yes, sir." "Why are you filling sandbags, Corporal?" It was the question she had been waiting for someone to ask for 14 months. But she did not complain. She did not explain about the mortar fragment or the 3 seconds of hesitation. "Because that is my assignment, sir." The general studied her for a long moment. His slate-colored eyes seemed to look through her skin, past her muscles, into something deeper. Then he did something unexpected. He crouched down and ran his hand over the sandbags she had stacked. He noticed the staggered pattern. He noticed the way she had reinforced the corners, the way she had left small gaps for drainage. He looked up at her. "You built this like a kill box," he said quietly. "The overlapping fields of fire. The covered approach. This is not a wall. This is an ambush position. Who taught you that?" Myra swallowed. "Nightshade Urban Defense Module, sir." Week 3. The general stood up slowly. He turned to his aides. "Cancel the briefing. Find me the personnel file for Corporal Sequeira. I want it on my cot in 15 minutes. The captain opened his mouth to protest, but the general's look shut it. The aides scrambled away, their boots crunching on the gravel. Now it was just Myra, and the general, and the wind, and the sandbags. He crossed his arms over his chest. "Do you know why I came up here today, Corporal?" "No, sir, because for the last 72 hours, someone has been intercepting our supply convoys. Not hitting them, intercepting them. They know exactly when we leave, which route we take, and how many escorts we have. They don't blow up the trucks. They just steal the medical supplies and the mortar rounds. Every single time. It is not luck. It is intelligence. Someone on the inside is feeding them information." Myra felt her training kick in. The analytical part of her brain, the part she had tried to bury under sandbags and exhaustion, started to hum. "A leak inside the logistics chain, sir. Someone who sees the manifests before they are encrypted." The general nodded slowly. "That is what I think too. Which is why I came looking for someone who does not appear on any manifest. Someone the leak would not know about. Someone who can read patterns the way I read a map." He looked at her patch again. "The Nightshade Unit does not let people go, Corporal. They reassign them. They hide them in plain sight until they are needed again." "I think you were just needed." Myra did not know what to say. Her hands were bleeding from the sandbags. Her back was screaming. But for the first time in 14 months, she felt something other than the gray fog of routine. She felt the sharp edge of purpose. The general turned to walk away. Then he stopped and looked back over his shoulder. "Finish this wall, Corporal. Then report to my command tent at 1900 hours. Do not tell anyone where you are going. And bring that vest." He walked off without waiting for an answer. Myra stood there, surrounded by half-stacked sandbags, her heart beating a rhythm she had not felt since the last Nightshade mission. The sun was lower now, painting the hills in shades of orange and purple. In the distance, she heard the rumble of supply trucks starting their engines. She picked up another sandbag. But this time, she did not feel like furniture. She felt like a ghost waking up from a long, dusty sleep. That evening, Myra found the general's command tent without asking for directions. She had spent the last 3 hours finishing the sandbag wall, then cleaned herself up with a wet wipe and changed into her only clean uniform. The nightshade vest lay folded on her cot. She put it on over her shirt, then covered it with a standard-issue jacket. The patch was hidden, but she could feel it against her chest like a second heartbeat. The command tent was a large, brown canvas structure lit by harsh LED lanterns. Inside, a folding table was covered with maps, satellite photos, and a tablet displaying real-time vehicle tracking. General Corrigan sat at the head of the table, a cup of cold coffee in his hand. The captain with the neat mustache stood near the entrance, looking unhappy. There was no one else. No aides, no staff. Just the three of them. The general gestured to a folding chair. "Sit down, Corporal." "Captain Harris, you can leave us." The captain hesitated. "Sir, with respect, she is a logistics corporal with a questionable medical history. This is highly irregular." The general did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "Captain, the last time I checked, I was still the general. Leave." Harris left. The tent flap fell closed, and suddenly the world outside seemed very far away. The general pushed the tablet toward Myra. "Tell me what you see." Myra looked at the screen. It showed a map of the northern sector, with colored dots representing coalition convoys over the last 3 days. Red dots were ambushed. Yellow dots were delayed. Green dots made it through. The pattern was clear even to a civilian. The ambushes were not random. They formed a crescent shape, curving around a specific valley. "Someone is filtering the convoys," Myra said quietly. "They let the small ones through. The big ones, the ones carrying surgical kits and heavy mortar rounds, get hit, but not destroyed. Just stripped. They want the supplies, not the casualties. That is not typical insurgent behavior. Usually, they want to kill. This feels like acquisition. Like they are building a stockpile for something bigger." The general leaned back. His expression did not change, but something in his eyes flickered. "Approval. Go on." Myra zoomed in on the map. She pointed to a small village called Al-Qadim, located at the center of the crescent. The ambushes all happen within a 15-kilometer radius of this village. But the village itself has no known insurgent presence. That means the coordination is happening somewhere else, probably underground. Caves, tunnels, old basements. Look at the timing. She pulled up a second screen showing convoy departure times. Convoys that leave between 0200 and 0400 get hit at a rate of 80%. Convoys that leave during daylight get hit at 20%. Whoever is doing this has access to the night patrol schedules. That is not a lucky guess. That is a leak. The general nodded slowly. "I know about the leak. What I do not know is who. My intelligence staff has been chasing shadows for a week. They keep pointing at local interpreters, at low-level supply sergeants, at anyone who looks nervous. But I think the leak is higher. Much higher." He slid a file folder across the table. Myra opened it. Inside were personnel records for 5 officers, all ranking from lieutenant colonel to major. All of them worked in logistics coordination. All of them had access to the encrypted convoy schedules. And all of them had been stationed at Fob Whiskey Ridge for at least 6 months. "These are my suspects," the general said. "One of them is selling information to the insurgents. I do not know which one. I cannot launch an official investigation without warning them. So I need someone invisible. Someone who does not exist on their radar. Someone who can watch them without being watched." Myra looked up from the folder. "You want me to spy on superior officers. I want you to do what the Nightshade Unit trained you to do. Observe, analyze, find the pattern." He paused. "The insurgents are planning something big, Corporal. The medical supplies they are stealing are not for wounds. They are for biological protection. Gas masks, decontamination kits, atropine injectors. They are preparing for a chemical attack. If we do not stop them in the next 72 hours, they will hit a forward base with something nasty. Hundreds of soldiers could die." The weight of it settled on Myra's shoulders. She had been stacking sandbags an hour ago. Now she was holding the lives of hundreds of people in her hands. She thought about the mortar fragment that had ended her Nightshade career. She thought about the 3 seconds of hesitation. She thought about the general's words. "The Nightshade Unit does not let people go. They hide them until they are needed." "I need access," she said finally. "I need to move around the base without raising suspicion. I need to see their schedules, their communications, their trash. The general pulled a small electronic badge from his pocket. It had a photo of Myra and a fake name, Corporal Elena Markovic, Supply Auditor. You are now on a temporary assignment from headquarters. This badge gives you access to every supply depot, every communication hub, and every officer's quarters. If anyone asks, you are checking inventory for a compliance review. No one questions a supply auditor. They are the most hated people on any base. Myra took the badge. It felt heavy in her hand. And after I find the leak, then you come back to me, and we end it, quietly. Before the chemical attack happens, the general stood up, signaling that the meeting was over. But he did not dismiss her. He looked at her for a long moment, and for the first time, his hard face softened. Corporal Sakara, I read your Nightshade file. I know why you were reassigned. 3 seconds of hesitation in a firefight is not cowardice. It is humanity. Do not let that memory define you. Myra stood up and saluted. This time, it was not furniture responding to a general. It was a soldier accepting a mission. She walked out of the tent into the cold night air. The stars were sharp overhead. In the distance, a dog barked. Somewhere, a generator hummed. She spent the next 48 hours doing the most dangerous work of her life, being invisible. She walked the halls of the command center with her clipboard and her fake badge, asking boring questions about inventory logs and delivery schedules. No one looked at her twice. She was a supply auditor, a ghost in a bureaucracy. She collected trash from the officers' quarters and sorted through it in her bunk at night. She listened to conversations in the mess hall, noting who was nervous, who was avoiding eye contact, who left meetings early. By the second night, she had narrowed the suspects to 2, Major Thomas Rourke, a logistics officer with a gambling debt, and Lieutenant Colonel Maria Voss, a transport coordinator who had recently divorced a wealthy civilian. Both had access. Both had motive. But the pattern did not fit either of them. Then she found it. A crumpled receipt in the trash of Major Rourke's office. It was for a satellite phone purchase from a shop in a city 200 miles away. The receipt was dated 3 weeks ago, which was odd because the military issued secure communication devices to all officers. Why would a major buy a civilian satellite phone? And why would he hide the receipt in his trash instead of destroying it? Myra pulled the satellite phone's call records from the base's monitoring system, another thing her fake badge allowed her to do. She cross-referenced the outgoing numbers with known insurgent cells. One number matched. A man named Abu Rashid, a known chemical weapons specialist. She took the evidence to General Corrigan at 0300 hours. He was awake, sitting in his tent, waiting. She laid out the paper trail, the phone, the calls, the timing of the ambushes matching Major Rourke's duty shifts. It was all there, cold and undeniable. The general read the documents in silence. Then he picked up his own phone and made a single call. Sergeant Major, detain Major Rourke, now. No, do not wake him politely. Put him on the ground. He hung up and looked at Myra. You did good work, Corporal. What about the chemical attack, sir? Rourke will talk. He will tell you where and when. The general shook his head. He will not talk. He is a disgraced officer. But he is not a fool. He knows we will trade his silence for a lesser sentence. But I do not need him to talk. I have you. He handed her a new file. It contained satellite imagery of a cave complex near Al-Qadim, the village she had identified on the map. In the images, she could see trucks unloading crates marked with biohazard symbols. The chemical stockpile was real, and the attack was scheduled for the next dawn. Just as the morning shift change created chaos at Fob Whiskey Ridge, I need a plan, the general said. A Nightshade plan. Something they will not see coming. Myra looked at the images. She thought about the sandbags she had stacked, the staggered pattern, the overlapping fields of fire. She thought about the ambush positions she had built without even realizing it. And she smiled. Sir, we do not defend the base tomorrow morning. We let them come. But instead of walking into a trap, we turn the entire perimeter into a kill box. We pull back the inner guards, make it look like the base is sleeping. Then, when they move in with the chemical weapons, we hit them from 3 sides. They will not have time to deploy the gas. We will have them in a crossfire before they can even open the crates. The general listened. Then he nodded. Write the orders. I will sign them, Myra wrote. She wrote for 2 hours, mapping out every unit, every fallback position, every signal to start the ambush. Her hand moved with the precision of someone who had been trained by the best and then forgotten by everyone. But she was not forgotten anymore.